or then you know how good he is. And we're just so glad that he's been in our community for the last 4 days. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm dying to see what he saw and what we'll see from this. Roger's visited over 1 billion communities all over the globe and all the other planets as well, right?
Feels like it.
So he knows his stuff, and welcome. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Roxy. How is everyone? Great. So how is everyone? Good? I'm trying to calm down. We've been a little stressed. We've got great technology in here, and we couldn't get it to work, but we got a picture. It's low res, but it'll work. So I'm just going to dig right in, and what we've been doing this entire week is an assessment. We have been secret shopping St. George and your nearby communities since Monday. And what that is we never got, from Greg at the Chamber, from the city, from Roxy over at Tourism, from the Dixie Center, nobody ever gave us anything preconceived. Nobody said, go see this, stay here, nothing. So we came in just like any other visitor would to St. George. And so when we do these assessments, we wear 3 hats. Number 1, is this a great place I would want to live to raise a family or maybe even retire? Or how about economic development? Is this a place I'd want to invest in or bring a business? And how is it as a place to visit? Okay, so we went from light to pitch black. Is that going to work okay for our camera? So there we go. And so that is what we've been doing. And just so you know, as Rock said, we've assessed or secret shopped 1,500 communities in 45 U.S. states, all the Canadian provinces, Western Europe, and most recently in Africa. So we've been around for a while. And so it's been really fun. In Utah, we did all of these. And so in 2015, and by the way, this is funded partially from the Utah Office of Tourism. And so that's what we did last year. We worked in those 4 counties plus Brigham City. And then in this year alone, we have done all of this. We did a branding for Ogden, which you'll see, Beaver County, all of these. And so Utah has become my second home. And one thing I will tell you, that there is, having worked and been in all 50 states, there is no state that has the diversity of landscapes that Utah does. None. I mean, talk about the Bonneville Salt Flats, to pine forests, to mountain ski areas, to desert, to you name it, you've got it in spades. And that's awesome. And so when we do this assessment, we look at marketing. We look at, was it easy to find information? Was it good enough to close a sale? How did you stack up to competing communities? And was it convenient to get information? And then this week, what we've been doing is what we call the on-site assessment. And that is where we look at signage, gateways. And I don't know, is it possible to turn off these lights without turning off all those? Does anybody know? No? Okay, well, we'll just, it's kind of bleaching out the screen there, and I'm really afraid it's, oh, he is? Okay, great. And so, things to see and do. We've been looking at all of these things, customer service. And as a matter of fact, we went through a list of 65 things, and I'm going to go through all 65 of them with you today. Kidding. We're going to hit on the main ones. And so it's been a great week, and there are 5 major, there you go, perfect. 5 major initiatives for St. George. And one thing about doing this is sometimes I could say things you'd like to say, but you can't without paying a political price. And so this is a very honest look. By the way, you will see no recommendations. You will see suggestions. And the reason I say suggestions is because we never talk to you first. It would be presumptuous for us to come in as outsiders, come into St. George and say, you need to do this and this and this, when we never talk to you. There may be things that you're going to see that you're already working on. Great, we don't know. And so it just means you've been validated. And one of the big initiatives, the first one is wayfinding. If any of you read the spectrum, when we assessed Cedar City, I hammered them about needing wayfinding. And guess what? St. George is Cedar City times 10. Cedar City is easy compared to this. When we came up about a couple months ago, and we were working in Cedar City, we actually took exit 2 in St. George, and we found a Wendy's. I have no idea whether you can get off on exit 2 and connect to the rest of St. George without getting on the freeway or not. And it's the same with exit 4, exit 5, exit 6, exit 9, what all these exits are. I have no idea once you're off the freeway with the connect. And so this was our biggest challenge all week. And there's your first suggestion, it should be the city's very top, or county, or a combination of both, very big priority number 1. And these are all your different exits. And once again, you got the airport out there, which I will talk about. We've got, out here, we found things. I mean, we found things everywhere, and we have no idea. For instance, we're at Sun River. We have no idea how you get to Bloomington Country Club from Sun River. No idea. I couldn't find any roads that go across the river. I don't know. There's no wayfinding. And so all these are different areas. You got mall areas. You got your downtown area. I think this is your mall area over here. You've got all of these things, and they're all scattered out, and there's no signage to any of them. So even on the freeway, I mean, you see things like this. Even on the freeway, I think there's one for the Dinosaur Discovery. There's none for Convention Center, none for downtown. I mean, there's the street names. And so this was a major challenge. So we see all the street names, but what the heck, which exit do you take to find a downtown St. George? And I've been in St. George many times. I wasn't even sure if you had a downtown. And so, and the same thing I said in Cedar City. When we went to Cedar City, we'd pull off where Panda Express and Walmart is. We thought that was downtown. And so even here, recreation information, we took that exit, and once you take the exit, there's no signs. I have no idea where that's supposed to take you. None. I mean, it's just totally incomplete. And so, I don't know. And so even this, look at this sign. Here's before, there's after. Now, that's not really there, but I'm thinking tonight at midnight, would somebody go out and do that? See, so that's all you have to do is add that little downtown up there. I mean, there's nothing. And so, by the way, I think this is really important. We're doing so much work with Utah Office of Tourism. One thing I did, and you've got a great advocate in Vicki Varela and her staff, your state tourism director. Most states have departments that all work in silos. Department of Transportation, Tourism, Economic Development, Community Development, I mean, you name it. And Utah Office of Tourism is now working very closely with UDOT on these issues. So before you go beat up UDOT, you do have an advocate at the state level to help fix some of these things. We ran into the same thing way up in Ogden. It said, here's 4th Street, 12th Street. It named all the streets, and nothing ever said downtown or to any attraction. And so those are things you can do. And I don't know how anybody would find any of these things that are coming up on this list, because there's no signs to any of them, except for maybe 1 or 2, and I'll show you that coming up. I mean, you have all of this stuff. How are you supposed to find any of this stuff? So even if we get your brochures, we go online, we make a list of things we want to see and do, you come here, and by the way, a lot of these things aren't even on navigation systems. And by the way, a navigation system is not a substitute for wayfinding. We use navigation systems to punch in things we know exist. Signage tells us of things that we didn't know you had. See what I mean? And so it educates locals and visitors. And so, I mean, even those are your main attractions, but even if we take things like the Crystal Inn, how do you find it? See, I know it's right by the freeway, right? It's right by the freeway, but when we drove up, we ended up a road back, you know, where the Mercedes dealership is, all those cars. We didn't know. So we had to meander down there just to find it. And so these are the challenges you have. You know, you have more signages telling you how to leave than how to enjoy your time at St. George. As a matter of fact, there are signs on 15 to all the state parks except for the best one, Snow Canyon. There's no signs to it. I mean, you know, and so it's a broken system. And so, by the way, one thing is when we Secret Shopped, we were sent a magazine and this map. The challenge is with this map is that my wife Jane, where's Jane? Right there, there's Jane. She was with me all week. She's over there. Let me go back. She is over there, and I'm really sorry, honey, but I cannot see out the window. This map, we used it, but it is twice the size that's practical. So we ended up folding it up, folding it this way, folding it that way. I mean, it's almost unwieldy to use. And by the way, I don't know if we hadn't requested information before we arrived, I'm not so sure what people would use to find anything. So we tried to use this, and you know what? I can't even fold it back up. So these are the challenges. So we ended up folding it. And by the way, maps should always be printed on map paper, not glossy paper, because by the time we're done with it, it's all ripped up. And so I think the map could be half this size. And by the way, the map doesn't even go down to Sun River. And so those are some of the challenges, but we did use it, thank God we had it, because otherwise a lot of stuff you're going to see that we saw, we would never have known. And so that's a challenge. So when we stayed here, we spent the first 2 nights at the Inn on the Cliff. And what we do is our secret shoppers, they tell us where to stay, so we don't even decide. They just say, okay, Roger, wow, we found this place. This place has really great views. And we thought, okay, we're not familiar with St. George. Let's stay at a place that has views. So we did stay at Inn on the Cliff. And by the way, our secret shoppers, TripAdvisor, the most used travel website on earth. We used it, I use it religiously. TripAdvisor will back it up with Yelp. Is it perfect? No. But of course, Inn on the Cliff was right there. And by the way, these are the 2 places we ended up staying. Well, actually, we stayed up here in I'll get to that. We used Airbnb. I've never used Airbnb before I used it. So we stayed at a condo, Wyndham, up on what is it? I call that the South Hill. I have no idea what that area is. Just on the other side of the freeway from here. And so we spent a couple nights at Inn on the Cliff and a couple of nights at up there at Wyndham. And when we were at Inn on the Cliff, we tried to get a good idea, and this was great. But even this, since we don't have wayfinding, we're going, okay, this road looks kind of cool. I don't know where it goes, but it could be kind of cool. And at least we're getting kind of an idea of what there is. And we thought, okay, finding the temple is going to be good, or going to be easy because it's such a landmark. Well, the problem is once you're down there on those surface streets, good luck finding the temple. And so, but at least it gave us a lay of the land. And by the way, you have a stunning city. You know, your competition is not Utah. Your competition is Sedona, Arizona, maybe Scottsdale. That's your competition. And I got to tell you, for natural beauty, you and Sedona own it. And I think that's important. But, I mean, and I'm going to talk more about that. So, when we came in, the first thing we did is we did see on 15, we did see visitor information signage, and it took us to this building. And so we did see it. And we did come in, this is Monday, we did come in to visitor information. It was right around 5 o'clock. They're open till 6. The gentleman working at the counter was not a good ambassador for St. George. As a matter of fact, he was like, do you have a place, is there a place we could eat? Where would we, and so he handed us this little printed list of restaurants, and he did highlight 3 or 4 of them, and I'll show you in a second, but he never said, what kind of food are you interested in? Where are you staying? Is there anything you'd like to do? Jane asked him, hey, if there was one place in St. George that we had to go see, what would it be? What would it be? He said, Snow Canyon State Park. Okay, is it like hiking? Yeah, hiking. I mean, that was the conversation. And so, obviously wanted to get home or anywhere else. Visitors would judge the entire community by that first reaction. First reaction. Okay? And so, before we arrived, he did hand us St. George magazine, which didn't really have a whole lot for visitors. I think it's a great lifestyle publication. And so we were really showing, here's that list. And so we actually went on TripAdvisor, and I said, okay, we've got, I can't read that up there. Oh, the Cliffside Restaurant, which was good. It was rated number 2. See, this is our little TripAdvisor rating. And then he's got Painted Pony, which is number 1. Then he had, let's see, here it is, Pancho and Lefties, which we thought was interesting because it's rated number 86 out of 185. And then he had Gun Barrel, but at least, you know what? I've been to visitor information centers where they say we can't recommend any restaurant because that wouldn't be fair to everybody else, which means skip the visitor information. So at least he did say, well, here's a few of my favorites. It would have been nice if he would have said, well, what kind of food are you interested in? How long are you staying? When are you going to eat dinner tonight? And so these are, just kind of what we got. And so, it was fine. And so right there, I want to take a little side trip. Visitors don't just travel 9 to 6 or whenever the Visitor Information Center, 10 to 6, whatever it is, open, which is just right out the door to the right. And so we thought the first thing you could do is add some visitor information. Your visitor information should be working 24/7. And so it says visitor information. We go there at 6:01 and they're closed. It's not very helpful. So what do? We get back on the freeway and skip St. George. And so if you just did something, look, this is a $10 real estate brochure holder. Even something like that would be helpful. Or if you do something like, this is Wickford, Rhode Island, a little town of 5,000, they have a map of the town and they put these little brochure holders right there. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be convoluted. And by the way, just so you know, before people travel, the number one decision of where they're going to go is word of mouth, friends and family. And by the way, that includes social media. Number 2 is the internet. So first is conversations. Number 2 is the internet. Number 3, we saw an ad or a marketing, an article. And then brochures are number 4 at 32% of the time. It's still important. It's a third. But you know what happens is, once we arrive, look at this. While traveling, brochures are number 1, 81%, and we can't get them after 6. 81%. It's the one thing we do, and then we go to the internet, like TripAdvisor, then number 3, word of mouth. And I couldn't believe the number of people that we saw at every single restaurant. It didn't matter whether it was Painted Pony, Capoletti's, didn't matter where we're at, there would be visitors saying, can you help me find this? Can you help me find that? What is there to do around here? Constantly. And so that is why you need brochure distribution. This is Moses Lake, Washington. You could do, not very good job as far as graphics, but you know what? Kiwanis put that up. So go to Kiwanis, Rotary. They're all about doing stuff. It would be great if on the back of this they had brochure distribution. This is Kingman, Arizona. This is, can't remember, Tennessee. Kingsport, Tennessee, right here. And they did this. And by the way, they charge businesses like $3 or $4, $5 a month to put brochures in there. And that money keeps it stocked, keeps it cleaned, and is building the next one. And so we even have a video that we're going to give you as a community for the next 6 months. We have like 40 videos, and this is one of them that will tell you how to do it. And one of my favorites is Little Cape May. This is a town of 1,000 in South New Jersey. Cape May, New Jersey, and in this little downtown, they built this. Now, I'm not sure how much this costs. I got to get that figure, but I'm guessing probably $6,000 or $7,000. But what's really cool, I love it. Welcome, friends, old and new. Linger here a day or two. And it's got all kinds of brochure distribution right there. I mean, they get tough weather in there. And so it's just great what they do, and it's 24/7. Flemington, New Jersey took what they call these portable bus stops. And this little bus stop right here, what they did is they re-outfitted it so that it could be a visitor information center. So these are the things you need to do. So you could have some freestanding ones like that. Or North Platte, Nebraska, they paid a local guy $350 to build that. And it's got the state guide, it's got their local guide, and then it might have a best of brochure, which I'm going to get to. And what they do is they have that there so it's always working. And so in here somewhere, you should have visitor information. As a matter of fact, here are the places that you should have them. You should have them here at the Convention Center. You should have it at Dinosaur Discovery. I mean, any of your golf courses that have public play should have them. All of these places should have some kind of kiosk, wall-mounted or freestanding, you name it, just someplace. Even your sports complexes, you know, your mall, outlet mall, town square, I mean, you name it, you should have probably 20 or 30 of these. So, we came off of 15, and that is how we found this convention center, because if we had not known that there was visitor information on the freeway, we would have never known this entire week that you even had a convention center. No signs, nothing. And so we wouldn't even known, and it's a beautiful facility. But your wayfinding goes even further than that. This is going down Bluff Street, and you're going down, it says visitor from, by the way, there was one that's even further north that says Visitor Center at Temple Square, and it's dark writing on a dark sign. It's almost impossible to read. So there's not even continuity, and it doesn't take you down St. George Boulevard, it takes you down a road that's north of that, which I thought, that's kind of odd. Why wouldn't you take people right down through the main drag? But this one here, so we turned left on St. George Boulevard, and we went up and down the boulevard and never saw visitor information. Can you see the sign right here? It's about 30 feet away. See? Yeah, you can see, well, there's, by the way, when you're going down this way, there's no sign on the street that says it's right here across the street. And of course, signs have to be perpendicular to traffic. This isn't. And of course, I'm talking about the chamber office. And even this, we finally saw it after we went down 2 or 3 times. Well, visitors aren't going to do 2 or 3 times like we did. They're going to do once, and you know what happens if they miss it? They're back on 15. And that's what you're trying to avoid. And by the way, I'd like to know, is there anybody outside of Utah that knows what the DUP Museum is? I get it, Daughters of the Utah Pioneers, but I get it. But remember, you have people coming from the world, and they're saying, what the heck is a DUP museum or a DUP museum? I mean, these are the challenges with your wayfinding that we struggled with. And so here's how we got to know St. George. We said, okay, we're going to just drive down all these main boulevards, and maybe it'll give us kind of a lay of the land. So we did that one. We went out that one. We went out this one here. We went over this one. So what we try to do is find these main boulevards, River Road. We actually did end up going down here. I mean, we drove down just about every street. Red Hills Parkway, which I thought is an attraction all by itself. You see St. George 360 degrees when you go down that road. That drive is a must drive for anybody coming to St. George. Okay? But then we finally find St. George Boulevard. Now here's the deal. This is not exactly a typical Utah grid pattern. I mean, I kept going, okay, the temple, is it on Center Street and 100 North Side? By the way, you have to also understand that people from out of state don't understand the naming systems in Utah of 100, south, east, west, and how it is, which is really a terrific way to help find things. But I always think, okay, Temple Square in Salt Lake City, let's see, we're at 100, right? So here it's going, okay, that must be where the temple is. Well, I don't think it is. I think it's probably closer to the tabernacle, because the temple's like on 300 South, something East. And so even in your marketing, you have to tell people, here's how to find addresses. And so that helped us a little bit. And then, of course, that oversized map, was tough. This is how people are getting around. And rarely correct on navigation system, by the way. It didn't even have restaurants in the right place. So navigation systems are not a substitute for wayfinding. And look at that. That would be my guess. And you know what? That means they're spending less time and less money in St. George. You're a pit stop. And that's what you don't want to be. So here's wayfinding. It includes vehicular signs on the freeway and on your surface streets, information, even restrooms, where public restrooms if we're downtown. Even you have a parking garage downtown, there's not one single sign to it. So people are circling around Ancestor Square trying to get into the pizza factory because they don't know that there's a parking garage a block and a half away. And hardly anybody's ever in it. And so attractions and activities should be on your signage, trail markers, access points, visitor information kiosks, pedestrian wayfinding. This is all wayfinding. And by the way, never more than 5 items on a sign. There it is. That's Modesto, California. It looks like it'd be Modesto. That's Woodlands, Texas. It looks like Woodlands. So your wayfinding also needs to reflect your brand. What are you about? And this is Appleton, Wisconsin. They're about the same size community as you. They put up this sign right here. They put up 18 of those. That was about $800 a piece. It's got aqueous coating on it so graffiti and ice won't stick to it. You don't need to worry about the ladder. And it's got aluminum hardware. You know what? They put up 18 of those and their retail sales and services went up 15% just by adding wayfinding. So this is not even an expense. It's an investment. And there you go. It plays a role in your branding. This is what you're about. There it is. It's part of your marketing. It reinforces a positive rather than a negative experience. It increases spending. It educates locals and visitors. And it builds community pride. And it's as much a science as it is an art. This is not, by the way, a public works project. Okay? I mean, it's amazing what you need to do. And there you go. Studies show it will between 14 and 28% wayfinding. So, and there you go. Just to reiterate, not a substitute. And so, you go up to Logan, they have wayfinding. It makes it really easy for you. And you know what? You don't even have to go very far because we fell in love with Ivans. The thriving metropolis of Ivans has wayfinding and St. George doesn't. And yet you're the commercial center. So we went out to Ivans and we absolutely loved it because it was easy to find stuff like Kayenta Art Village. And it's the one time we were able to set down the map so I could see where I was driving and actually follow the signs. And we went there and they did a great job. Okay? So that's our setup. So Monday evening, we got kind of set up, tried to get an idea of what the layout is, and we did eat at the restaurant on the Cliffside restaurant, and it was awesome. And so that was our Monday. Tuesday, we decided, okay, we're going to head out west because they have wayfinding, right? So we're going to head out west. And so we got up and decided to head out. And on our way driving out there, we found this great aquatic center. We would have never known it existed except we were just driving around. Remember, most visitors aren't just going to drive around like this one. But we saw it and we thought, boy, that's pretty cool. That's really nice. We drove into Santa Clara, which has a great gateway signs. All of a sudden we're going, wow, I really like this area. So you can see how we're comparing St. George to these areas, these communities. One thing that cracked me up, though, is we come into Santa Clara, it says historical district, and we couldn't find anything that looked historic other than the town hall. I mean, I go, these homes were built in the 50s and 60s, and I'm sure somebody say, well, yeah, that's historic. I'd say, thanks a lot. I was born in the 50s. Right? But, we saw great shops, though. Great shops. And by the way, love the little fruit stand right there. That is awesome. And so all of a sudden, we even find places like this. Now, one thing that's really important, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea whether it's a restaurant, a garden store, home accents. I have no idea what it is. So for you, all of you in business, and you can pass on your businesses, always promote what it is you're selling before the name of the store. Because visitors aren't going to say, well, let's stop, pull over, find parking, get out, walk up to the door just to see what it is. We make a decision, by the way, in less than 8 seconds. Now, if you do turn there and up on the garage, above the garage doors, I think it does say gardening and home accents or something. But that's only if you stop, turn right, and look at the garage. And then of course there is the town hall. Looked great. We did drive by and we did see the Jacob Hamlin home. And by the way, we didn't have time to go in a lot of these attractions because you know what? There was so much to do in St. George, we were shocked. And part of the challenge is marketing, is that I think you spend way too much time marketing Zion, which just about everybody markets, when St. George could be a standalone destination. And so I'm coming to that. So we did do that. We kept driving out. We did see Kayenta, and I don't know if it's Kayenta or Kayenta. We asked a couple of people, and each of them said it one of those two ways. And so, so we did see that great signage. And we saw the beautiful homes out there. We were just stunned. I mean, you know what happened? For the next half hour, we were driving around looking at prices of homes in St. George. And by the way, we live in Phoenix. So we live just south of Sedona. But anyway, just absolutely a stunning area. We did see the art village, which by the way had been on my bucket list because I'd seen ads in the state tourism guide. I'd seen ads online. I saw ads in. I'd seen and heard about Kayenta for the last couple of years. We've been working in Utah. And so we thought, okay, as soon as we're done with this one, we're going to go find that other one, Coyote Gulch. Right? They're both promoted. So we did go there, and it has pedestrian wayfinding. See, St. George? Pedestrian wayfinding too. Like in your downtown. Like we almost missed the Opera House because we were on Main and didn't know it was up there. But they do a really great job, and it is awesome. And by the way, just so you know, people are 4 times more likely to buy art when they meet the artist. So when we walked into here and you meet the artist, guess what? We're looking for which pieces did you make? Because people do that. It makes a personal connection to them. It is fantastic. It all by itself is a reason to come to St. George. And I haven't even scratched the surface. I mean, it is really great. There is a little outdoor theater there, and one thing I would suggest, not just here, but all over, you have places like this, and there's no reader board that says that anything ever happens here. So if they just put up a reader board that just says fall, winter, 2016, 17, and just list it, it's an invitation for us to come back, and they're not creating the invitation. We have a space, we have no idea whether it's ever used. We went into Zetava, I think it's Zetava, little restaurant there. How fantastic is that place? By the way, if you go out there, they have this cranberry pumpkin spice cookies. See, I'm wearing them still. Really great. And so I love the fact on their brochure they tell you Zetava. They tell you how to pronounce it. And did I pronounce it right? I thought, is it Zetava or, but anyway, great place. And I'm going to take another side trip. They said, this is your other big initiative besides wayfinding. It's marketing. And I'm going to hammer on marketing for a little bit. Here's the deal. Day trips, 45 minutes. You guys are promoting stuff that's 5 hours away. You're promoting stuff in Emery County. You're promoting stuff in Moab. Who is going to come to St. George, pack up, and stay in their hotel, and then get up in the morning and drive all the way to Moab and then drive back? I mean, Zion is as far as you should go. Yet I see you marketing stuff all over the state, and I absolutely get it. The state's campaign, the Mighty Five, is the best campaign in U.S. history, by the way. Vicki Varela won the State Tourism Director of the Year award from a U.S. Travel Association, which I used to sit on the board of. And so you're promoting Lake Powell, which is 90 miles east of Kanab. If I'm going to Lake Powell, I'm going to stay in Kanab or Page, Arizona, not St. George. And I know that Zion is about an hour. I would say, yeah, you could do that. But you know what? Quite frankly, if I was going to Zion, I would stay in Springdale. And I say it right now, it's the best town in Utah. You know why? Here's why. Because every one of those shops and restaurants is open until 9 and 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. This is a town of 800, not 80,000. I was working in Tinley Park, Illinois, a south suburb of Chicago. And I was wearing a Zion National Park shirt because this is the 100th anniversary of our national park system. And after our meeting with like 15 people, we're doing branding there, 5 or 6 came up to me afterwards. I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to do the meeting after the meeting when everybody's left, right? But all 6 of them, all they want to talk about was Zion National Park. Oh, I just was there 3 weeks ago. Another one said, well, I'm going to be there next month. Another one said 3 months ago, we did a family reunion in Springdale. I said, well, where did your family members come from? She goes, all over the United States. I said, and how long are you there? A week. And I said, well, if you're there for a week, how many times did you go into Zion National Park? She goes, 2 or 3 days. Springdale was our destination. And so, wouldn't it be great? And here's the thing, and I gave the same thing to Kanab. This is what I told him. Look, Kanab, you're promoting the Mighty Five. You're sending people out an hour and a half each way. When we come back, everything's closed, so why would we come back? You're downtown at 601 is, you shoot a cannon off Main Street and not hit anything. I'm serious. We did it last night. We didn't shoot the cannon off. But we did drive down Main Street, and number one, it was pitch black dark, not even street lights. And so I think that here's the number one priority in marketing. I want you to create the very best of St. George. And Cedar City, I told them to do one. We told Springdale to do one. We're telling every committee the very best brochure you could do be the very best of. And I'm going to give you an example. This is Alpena, Michigan. Little town of 10,000, way up there on the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. And this is what they have. And they promoted their best restaurants, their best retail shops, and their best activities. No hotels, no lodging. It's this brochure right here. And by the way, I'm going to even give you criteria. And by the way, I even helped you pick them out. Because politics always get in the way of this. And this is something the chamber can't do because chambers are membership driven. And so in this case, each one of these people were invited and they each paid $400 for their panel. And they got this little brochure. Art in the Loft is great. The Besser Museum was really struggling. It couldn't afford the $400. There was enough from everybody else to cover them. They paid $200 because we thought it was important to promote them. So this is what they did. Because you know what? The number one asked question of visitors in the world is this: where's a good place to eat? And please don't hand me a list. Where's a good place to eat? Because that's what we got is just a list. It doesn't help me at all. You know what we end up doing? We end up back on Yelp and TripAdvisor and OpenTable and every other app anyway. And so wouldn't it be cool? And the reason there's no lodging here, wouldn't it be cool? Somebody comes up, it's the most asked question in the front desk, where's a good place to eat? Wouldn't it be cool if they said, well, you know what? Here's a brochure that showcases the very best of St. George. It's got our top restaurants, it's got our top activities, and it's done through criteria, which I'm going to show you. You know, because, and by the way, you're going to have some people, by the way, in this case, here's what they did with this. Alpena is 10,000. So 10,000 population. But they mailed it to everybody in every household in the county, which is 30,000 people, which means they mailed out about 10,000 of them. They snail mailed them with a little card, and here's what the card said. And I'm paraphrasing. The number one activity, no, here it is. The number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope you will hang on to this brochure so that when friends and family visit you, you will share with them the very best of what St. George has to offer. Because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. People started going in downtown Alpena and going, oh my gosh, Myers Fashions, how long have you been here? And the merchant go, 10 years. It worked. Always promote your anchor tenants. You cannot let politics get in the way. And here's sample criteria that they used. And so they said, number one, they had to have good curb appeal. And they had to be open year-round. And they had to be open until at least 7 o'clock p.m. And they had to be open 6 days a week. The day they could be closed there was on Mondays. That may be different here. But, that's what they used. It must be unique to the area. No change. We don't need your best of. If your best of includes Walmart and Subway, you got real problems. And so they must be highly regarded by somebody other than themselves. Okay? You know what? So you should market your top 6 restaurants, your top maybe 6 retail shops and galleries, maybe your top 12 attractions within a 45-minute drive. And other than Zion, I could spend a week in St. George easy without ever going anywhere else. And so this should be your number one priority. And by the way, I don't know if it's pronounced phrase or fries. Fry's Fruit Market should be on that list. Okay? Kanta Art Village should be on that list. Zaytava Gardens Cafe should be on that list. Aragosta restaurant we did not eat at, but it was number one on TripAdvisor, and people just raved and raved and raved about it. So there's your start, okay? And I'm going to keep going. And so in marketing, we want you to reduce this map by 50% and print it on map paper that doesn't tear. Okay? So there's something you could use. That'd be helpful. We did get this visitor's guide, which is online, and Roxy and the crew here do this. One of the challenges that you have in Utah is that your marketing is done on a county-wide basis. The problem is consumers could care less about counties. And so it really handicaps them that they have to promote Hurricane and Laverton and Springdale and Zion and you and everybody. They can't play favorites one over the other, and that hampers you as a metropolitan area. And so that's something we've been talking with them about. Now, one of our secret shoppers is new to secret shopping. She's a traveler, a seasoned traveler. So she went on the web and says, okay, I'm planning a trip to St. George. The first number that came up apparently was the city. So she called the city and said, I'm interested in coming to St. George. Most people would look for a Chamber of Commerce because it's the one consistent in every community, which we also did. But she said, well, let me transfer you into the Leisure Services Department. So rather than say you should call the Chamber or somewhere else, we transferred her to Leisure Services, and then they must have told the Chamber that, hey, we got another call, could you send? And then we got the Chamber area guide, which was this, and we got the map. Those are the two things we got in the mail. But she wasn't sure, where do you call in St. George? Do you call the Dixie Center? Do you call the state? Do you call the city? Do you call the Chamber? Who do you call? Sounds like Ghostbusters coming right up. Who do you call? And so we did get the guide. The challenge with the guide is that it's really more of an all-purpose relocation guide. And by the way, when you go into it, and by the way, I do not want anybody in this room to start criticizing your countywide tourism, your St. George Office of Tourism, or the Chamber. because they're doing a good job. I'm just telling you, here's how you can make it even better. But when you go into even their guide, which I don't know that it's really meant to be a true tourism guide, they're the Chamber of Commerce. They stand for economic development, community development. It's got important numbers. We've got the Chamber of Commerce 2 pages. We've got transportation. We've got a list of hotels. And then we got a list of restaurants. And then we've got events. And then we have some events, arts back in here. It does have a downtown guide. So we used it a little bit, but it wasn't a true tourism guide. And then, of course, we did have the magazine, which wasn't a whole lot helpful as a visitor. So here was our deal. St. George said it'd have its own activities guide. I really believe that. Now, I'm all about state marketing. I'm all about countywide. I think you're far more effective as one loud voice than a bunch of little voices. But you know what? The St. George experience is totally a different universe than Springdale or Hurricane and Laverton. See what I mean? It's totally different. You can't just box them all up together. And so I thought, this is one thing. And by the way, once again, this is not a reflection on the marketing that's being done by the Chamber. And I don't know if the city even does any, or even from your St. George tourism office. But if you had 3 pieces for St. George, I would have the St. George Activities Guide, okay? I would also have the very best of St. George, that's the best of brochure, and a new map of the area. That's the only 3 pieces you need as a city. Everything else is done by the state. And by the way, the state is doing a fantastic job promoting these national parks. I don't think you need to sell Zion as much as you do. It's already being oversold. 2 years ago, their increase in tourism went up 500,000 visitors. Last year went up another 500,000, and this year it's another. They just can't handle anymore. And so, those, if you did those, the Chamber, your guide to moving and doing business St. George, which it does a good job of. So, and then countywide, your St. George and Zion National Park guide is great. So those are great, but I still think you need that one for St. George. And I even thought, well, do you create one thing we were confused at, you have your Office of Tourism, which manages Washington County marketing. Then you've got your Chamber of Commerce. And then you've got a different group marketing this center. Yet I know that Roxy and her group also do convention marketing, so I'm going to have all these different silos. And remember, we've only been here 4 days. We haven't talked to Roxy. We haven't talked to anybody. But it just seems, all these other bigger cities, they all have their own standalone. And I'm not divorcing anybody from any, because I still think it's important that you do this. And so we just thought those 3 pieces. And by the way, those 3 pieces can't be done by the Chamber because Chamber's membership driven. What happens if one of your best attractions is not a Chamber member? You still have to promote them. Then they'll say, well, then what's the benefit of being a Chamber? See what I mean? And so that's the issue with Chambers doing this. So who's going to do it? And it's really tough for a city to say, we're going to pick the top 6 restaurants. See what I mean? Don't ever put your city in that position. So we got to figure out who's going to be the organization that can do that. Somehow you got to do it. And I really thought that you have enough in this area here without going over here to the other areas of Zion and Hurricane and Laverton and all these communities. Right here, you have enough to keep me busy for weeks. Weeks. So, still love From Arts to Zion. I like it better than A to Zion. I still like Arts to Zion. I think it's great. You can still do that. And so, and here's the deal. When we stayed up there at Wyndham, which is kind of timeshare, most of the people are there, and they're going to go to Zion. So I'm not saying that you avoid Zion at all. You're on 15, you're easy to get to from Vegas, from Salt Lake, from just about anywhere. And so you do that. But here's what you got to do. If my trip is to Zion National Park and I'm going to walk the Narrows, I'm going to take the trolleys, I'm going to do all that Zion stuff, why would it come back to St. George? And you're not answering that question. Why would it come back to St. George? So if you did your marketing that says, if you're planning a trip to Zion, here's why you should stay here. And I'm not trying to compete against Springdale, but here's why you would stay in St. George. Whether it's sports, whether it's art, you have art in spades. Whether it's the food, whether it's the Snow Canyon, those other experiences, you need to say, here's why you should stay. Because, you know, when we go to Zion, we could stay at about 20 or 30 different cities, including the ones on the other side, like Kanab. So you have to say that even though you're going to Zion, here's why you should stay in St. George, and you need to promote what's in St. George. And so, you know, or any other city, Kanab, Laverton, Hurricane, you name it. And so we did go to Kayenta, and as we're leaving, we see, this is Coyote Gulch. So here's my message to them. Pick one and stick with it. Because some of the market says go to Coyote Gulch Art Village, and some of them say go to Kayenta Art Village. Just pick one, because if we wouldn't have been seeing that, we would have been driving around trying to find it. Make it easy for people. While we're out there, Tuacahn, did I pronounce it right? Fantastic. Matter of fact, when we asked people what to do, we asked probably 30 people that we knew were locals. If there's one thing we had to do, what is it? You know what the young people said? Oh, you got to go see Thriller. To a person, you got to go see Thriller out at Tuacahn. Older people all said Snow Canyon. By the way, nobody ever mentioned anything that's physically in the city of St. George. But you know what? Who cares? People, we don't say, oh, that's in Ivans. We're not going out there. No, not at all. Because you still have the hotels. You still have the most of the restaurants. You still have, hopefully, nightlife. And so we did go out there. Yeah, okay, I know that's lacking. I expected that to get a laugh. This is fantastic. I mean, it is just absolutely incredible. And I came from the concert industry, and I just saw that setting. It reminded me of the Acropolis in Greece, you know, where they have these settings like this. I mean, it's just fantastic. There is a little retail store here, or a big retail store. It says coming soon. I have no idea when coming soon is. It looks like it's got retail stuff in there, but I don't know when it's over. So you know what? For anybody, put a date so we'll come back. Otherwise, we're not going to come back until we're coming to a play, because we don't know when coming soon means or what it is. So for any of you, that doesn't do anything. We love the fact they did do the pre-show dining. I mean, we started digging through all the marketing, trying to figure out, is anybody marketing this besides them? See, the last thing we want to do is go to 100 different websites trying to sort all this stuff out. And, I mean, it was just phenomenal. And absolutely, it would be on your list of best ofs. Absolutely. And while we're out there, we did go to Snow Canyon, and it is phenomenal. And this is, everybody said, you got to go to Snow Canyon. They didn't mention the other state parks, but they did mention this one, and we loved the mix. Remember, we live in Arizona, so we see lots of the stuff around us. But I love the mix of the black lava and the red rock. You can actually see where lava spilled out of the mountains. Look at barfed out to, you know, sorry to use that kind of language, but, you know, you could just see it coming. I mean, it was really cool. The land, there's hillsides that have the red and the black. It looks like an artist did this mosaic. I haven't seen that anywhere. And it is really phenomenal. When we were out at Kayenta, one of the women in one of the galleries said, and if you do anything, the one trail you got to walk is the Hidden Paiute. I think that's what it's called. It's like, is that right? And they said it's like a mile and a half, it's easy. They could tell that I needed easy. You know, and just did a great job selling it. I love the fact that you have this. I mean, you know, I was going, if we would have more time, we would have done a lot of hiking in here. See, we could have stayed in St. George for 2 or 3 days and just did this. And by the way, it not only is it one of your anchor tenants, but you need to always promote a Hidden Pinion. There you go, sorry. A Hidden Pinion Trail. Always promote the activity, not the destination. So what's the best trail in that park for hiking? Like the guy said, so what do we do there? Hiking? He goes, yeah, hiking. So at least we got that out of the way. And according to him, there's probably nothing else to do here. And so, absolutely best of. By the way, I've been into many of Utah's state parks, and just driving from one end to the other and then turning around and coming back through, an entirely different experience. You got to market that. If you're not in, if you don't have time, drive in one end, pay the $6 or whatever it is, turn around at the other end and come back, and you see two different experiences. And I mean, that's how you market this. It's just incredible. By the way, I think the only other state park that really is as great as this one is probably Goblin Valley, which is good enough to be a national park. But just phenomenal. So we're out there, and then we came back in, and we're just driving down. Remember I showed you all those streets we drove down? We're just driving down some street, and we see this. We can't find this in any marketing anywhere. We're just driving around and went, what the heck is that? So we pulled in there, and we saw the community gardens, which we thought was awesome. We see this trail, but on your trails, there's no maps, no distances, nothing. You have trails everywhere, but I don't know where they go. This is the Santa Clara River. I don't know if it's a mile long, half a mile long, 20 miles long. We saw some other trails not far from here on the other side of the freeway. I think that's maybe the Virgin River Trail. Not too sure. Nothing. Matter of fact, yesterday, Jane spent half an hour on the web trying to find something about your trails. After about half an hour, she finally found a little trail map. But we're in city departments, in tourism departments, and most everything says we have lots of trails. They're wonderful. Oh, thanks a lot. Your marketing's so generic. Like, we couldn't find anywhere. Here's a question for you. Can we rent a bike anywhere in St. George? Where? What? Red Rock Bicycle. And where's Red Rock Bicycle? 100 South and what? Bluff Street. Okay, we probably drove right by it. Well, I know we drove right by it because we stayed up on the hill. Okay, but here's the point. But if it's not near the trail, can I rent a bike rack so I can get it to the trail? Or will they deliver the bikes? But you know what? You need to promote private businesses like that. That's tourism is about economic development. It's about business, not amenities. Trails are amenities. What the benefit of tourism is getting people to spend money. You need to promote Red Rock Bicycle. And you need to say, and by the way, you can rent a bike there. They will get you a trailer hitch. They will deliver it. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get them in trouble. But you know what I mean? You're not doing that. We probably would have done it. And so we did see that. We saw a nature center, so we walked down there. This is a fabulous park. Walked up to the nature center, and the only people working were the geese and the ducks. The second I walked over to the little machine, I didn't have a quarter. They were all like waiting. But you know what? We went up there. I have no idea if or when this is ever open. There's no sign, nothing. Once again, there's no invitation to come back. We don't know whether it's closed for the year, whether it's permanently closed, or whether it's only open on weekends. There's nothing that says anything. These are the things that you're missing that would get us to stay longer and spend more money. And then Thunder Junction, of course, we were walking over to the Nature Center. I could hear this train. Woo-hoo. So we went over there. It is fantastic. But it's not being marketed. And it could be say, we don't want visitors to know about this. It's ours. And that's fine. And so, it's just incredible. And so absolutely, you got to do Tuacahn Park. And then specific, you got to ride Thunder Junction. And by the way, we saw as many old people on there as we did kids. By the way, the biggest trend in travel is multi-generational. It's us grandparents, kids, and the grandkids. Biggest trend. And we're just getting into it. And I mean, all of a sudden you've got, then I put the Virgin River Trail because we think it's longer and probably more scenic than the other one, but trying to find any information was very problematic. So that's why there's a question mark on that. So when we came back on Wednesday, or was it Wednesday? Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday, Tuesday, I think. We decided we're going to give it one more shot here because we wanted to see the museum. We got here at 5 on the first day, and so we thought, let's go check it out. And this time, the guy standing behind the desk was a guy named Dean. Even the customer said, oh my gosh, we love your enthusiasm. And I went, yes! Clone that guy. Because he was incredible. I mean, when visitors start doing that, that's a good thing. And he was saying, well, this is my backyard. I mean, he was just awesome. And boy, I would love to see more of him. So we did go through the Wildlife Museum, and I can't remember, it's Rickenbach or some name that we could never remember or spell. And I thought, why don't you just call it the World Wildlife Museum? I know the naming rights and, you know, the donations and everything, but you know, it is really awesome. I mean, and remember, we didn't have time to go through all of these like we wanted, but we spent more than an hour in this one, and it was pretty good because they tell you the stories of how the lions and the hyenas will, you know, fight over the kill. So it wasn't just displays. They actually tell you, bring you into the stories. And so absolutely Rosenbrook, is that how you pronounce it? Wildlife Museum, but that's something that's hard to remember. And so we did that in the morning, and then we went to Paint and Pony for lunch. By the way, we've eaten at the Paint and Pony 2 or 3 times because it is worth the stop. If you're driving anywhere through the area, it alone is worth the stop in St. George. That's what you call an anchor tenant. And so, very important. And they are rated one of the best. And so, absolutely, we added them to the list, Paint and Pony Restaurant. Really great. And then we did see Dinosaur Discovery. We did not get a chance to go into all of these, but it looks phenomenal. It has an outdoor dining area as well. And we thought, this is pretty cool. You got to add it on the list. Look at your list. We didn't know any of this stuff existed other than Paint and Pony, and Kayenta Art Village before we arrived. And so we decided, okay, after lunch, we're going to go check out these other state parks that you're promoting. We did drive out to Quail Creek. We thought it was really pretty, but I thought, you know, if I'm in St. George, you know, I think it's fine. But we went over to Sand Hollow and we went, okay, now this is cool. Sand Hollow, even though it's probably closer to Hurricane in those areas, this is an incredibly beautiful lake. I mean, just stunning. So we thought, man, if you could take Snow Canyon and Sand Hollow, there's your 2 state parks. And you get water, you get the hiking, it doesn't matter what your experience, those 2. See what I mean? You don't need to promote everything. And so, unless you're the county, they have no choice. But for you, I mean, it's just phenomenal. We're just blown away. And you know what? This right here needs to be promoted. We're looking at, I'm a scuba diver, Jane's a scuba diver, and we're looking out there. You could see the bottom out there where it's 30 and 40 feet deep. It's that clear. If there was ever a place to get a diver certification, it'd be right here. See, these are the experiences you need to promote. And by the way, that's a private business? Absolutely. And by the way, if you want to do a diver certification, it'll probably take you a week to do it. Guess what? We're only doing that a couple hours a day. Now we have a whole rest of the day to spend time and money in St. George. And so absolutely, Sand Hollow State Park, maybe it's diving. I don't know if it's boating, fishing, kayaking. I'd pick the top 2 activities out there because diving is pretty niche. And I would love to see you develop detailed itineraries for St. George. I think you could do a set that's kids and family. I think you could do a recreation one that might have your top hikes, biking, you know, those kinds of things. And then your third one might be arts and culture. And let me just do one for you. So we thought, okay, if you're coming here, I want you to think like a travel writer. If you're coming here as multi-generational or even just family with kids, get up at 8 and go have breakfast at Black Bear Diner. And by the way, you got to try the sweet cream waffles. Did I say that right? Sweet cream waffles. See what I mean? This is the way a travel writer would write. And not say, pick any one of our fine restaurants. No, because another itinerary, you can pick a different breakfast one. Then go to Dinosaur Discovery. And you might spend 9:15, an hour and 15 minutes there. We didn't, because we didn't go in, we didn't know how much time. But then when you're done, go over to the World Wildlife Museum. Okay, Rosenbach Museum here. And then when you're done, go over to Twisted Noodle Cafe. You know, take the kids. And then when you're done, go ride the Thunder Junction train and play at Tonnequin Park. Spend a couple hours there. And when you're done with that, you got to go through the Children's Museum in downtown St. George. And then when you're done with that, go to Town Square. You can relax. You've spent busy all day. There's the splash pad. There's all of that there. And then at 7 o'clock, go have dinner at the Pizza Factory. It's just 2 blocks up the street. That's how you market. And by the way, if a family did that, they'd be exhausted by noon. So this is really like a 2-day itinerary. But you know what? I didn't even include all the kids' stuff because there's also the Desert Garden, any performances, Pioneer Park. I mean, see what I mean? Why are you sending people away? And so those are the kinds of things you need to do. And things like this, Opus Pocus, you know, you have so much cool stuff. But doing detailed itineraries like that is a great way to win people because you made it easy. And so for dinner, we did go eat at Gun Barrel. And it was good. I don't know that I would put it on the best of list, you know, but I thought it was really good. So I'm not complaining. But remember, it's your very, very best ofs. And so that was Tuesday. Pretty busy day, huh? Wednesday, we thought, okay, first thing we're going to do is head downtown. And so we did go to Temple Square and see it. And of course, it's gorgeous. And now is St. George Temple the oldest temple in the church? It is. Okay, because I knew like Salt Lake was built afterwards, right? Salt Lake was under construction when this was, anyway. Beautiful site, great visitor center there. We did find Dixie State. By the way, one of the first things I do is say, what's with all the Dixie everything? Why didn't you just call the town Dixie if that's what you're going to call everything in the town? And so we finally got the story of bringing them, sending families down here to open up cotton farming and everything, and people from the south were doing that. So we got that, but we had to Google and look it up. It's something you ought to tell people. By the way, if you see the word Dixie, here's how that came about. And so we did find it. It wasn't easy. We had to just drive around because there's no signs pointing to it. But now that we're at Dixie State, we're driving around, we never could find a main entrance to it at all anywhere. I think this is probably the basketball arena, am I right? Sports arena. We don't know if there is a student union building. If I was looking to go to school here or was looking to go to school here for our kids, I have no idea where you go. None. And by the way, we drove up and down every single street and could not find anything. So, we saw these buildings, and we don't know. So, but this is me. I always like pitting community events, community, because up in Ogden, Weber State has wayfinding. St. George Ivans has wayfinding. No wayfinding. So, I started to highlighted the restaurants here. So absolutely got to add the temple there. It's great to see. And then back on this map, I think this is just a phenomenal drive. Now, when we were in on the cliff, we asked the front desk guy, where's the place to go? And he said, go to Pioneer Park and climb on top of the rock. You'll see amazing views. And so he said, go to Main Street and go north till it dead ends. And then you'll turn right. Main Street doesn't go anywhere. It dead ends. And so we did eventually find out how to get up here, but it wasn't from Main Street. But while we did go up Main Street, I wanted to really, really thank you a lot for doing this park in my honor. Brooks Nature Park, we really appreciate that, you know. You just did that last week. Okay, thank you. It's going to go down later today when I have to leave. Okay, that's great. And so we did go up there. As a matter of fact, when we went up there Tuesday night, did you know that the Desert Gardens was a haunted canyon and everything? It was really cool. But you know what? On any itinerary, forget the kids and family itinerary. You know what any itinerary should say? If you're staying anywhere in St. George, get up early, walk to the desert, the Red Hills Desert Garden, and walk it. First thing in the morning, as the sun's coming up over the hills and everything, fantastic views of the entire valley. See what I mean by itineraries? We didn't see any of this stuff marketed anywhere. They're in lists, but it's a fantastic garden. They even have wayfinding. So here it is, a little desert garden has wayfinding, and Dixie State University doesn't. City of St. George doesn't. So have I rubbed that in enough yet? Really cute, really well done. And just what a great way to start any day. I mean, you drive up there and you get out of your car and you just decompress. I mean, it's cool, brisk air. I mean, it was phenomenal. We went there twice. It's just fantastic. And so absolutely, and by the way, it's educational. They're talking about plants and water conservation, which is right next door. Just terrific. Then we never could find any place called Pinnacle Park. Is this it? Pioneer Park, I mean. Is this Pioneer Park? There's no signs anywhere that say Pioneer Park. So we just guessed that this must be it. And by the way, up here we saw a little bridge that goes from one rock to the other. I have no idea how you get to that bridge. So somewhere around there, we did walk around there. We found almost like a slot canyon and stuff, but we never could find out how to get up there. And there's no signs that say what it is. So we thought maybe this is the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. Somebody called it Dixie Red Rocks. Are all these the same place? They're not. Some people said yes. See what I mean? You don't even know. But some places said Dixie Red Rocks. Is that here? Yes. Is okay, and where is the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve? That's it. It's behind it. Okay. Because this sign right here says, welcome to the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. So we figured this was not Pioneer Park. This is not Dixie Red Rocks. So pick one. And so now, where does this go? Is it part of a trail system? No signs. How far does it go? Not very far? All of the above. Okay. It connects with 40 miles of trail. See, I didn't even know you had 40 miles of trail. Wow. See, right there. There's no signs, no information. We did see a couple walking up here, but we were up on the rocks. So we didn't get down in time to ask them, where does that go? Part of wayfinding. Great trails through there. I mean, what's so amazing about this is normally people are I don't care. Even if you're in Moab, you go drive somewhere to do this. Here, you could walk there from downtown, almost walk there. I mean, this is right in your town. And so we just thought it was phenomenal. We could see people up there taking pictures and stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. And then of course the views from there. So if you start at the garden, the desert garden, then walk over on this side, I mean, look at the views you have here. And by the way, on the other side, you have signs like this. How's this working for you? You know what? Go get one of those real estate brochures, stick it on there, and put the very best of St. George in there, and then we're going to grab that and we're going to look for a place to have breakfast or lunch or dinner. But I'm just going, okay, this is, a missed opportunity to invite people back. And by the way, I hope somebody will take that down. Oh, okay. Is that this is not public land? Okay. You had this beautiful, beautiful scene. I can't take a picture or anything with that there. So this is called midnight evangelism. No, just kidding. But it is, I just going, oh, what a shame, And so, once again, phenomenal views. Just absolutely incredible. And then how about a trail map? I don't know if these trails, I don't know where they go. There's just no information. And that's missing all over the city. And absolutely it needs to be. And by the way, whatever it's called. And so, by the way, every single thing you see on this list is within a 20-minute drive of downtown St. George. All of them. I mean, it's just like, are you kidding? And so then we decide, okay, so we've done that. We better go find the airport, which after we got there, we felt like we were in Colorado. My gosh. I was like, we're driving and driving and driving. Are we still in Utah? Now, I understand that. You know what? I'll bet St. George has big plans because sooner or later you're going to grow out to it. And I'm going, boy, you guys are ambitious. And there are some plans out there. But we did find the airport. And I put the most rural airport in America. I mean, we're from Phoenix, and we can't fly from Phoenix, by the way, where we live in northwest Peoria, near Lake Pleasant, if anybody knows that area. Where we live, we would have to drive 45 miles to Tempe for Sky Harbor. But if you want to come to St. George, you have to drive all the way to Mesa, which is an hour and 15 minutes, then catch a flight here, get a rental car, and drive another hour and 15 minutes. Okay, that's what it feels like. To get into St. George, we drove here faster. And so anyway, it looks like a great airport. But you know what? I got to tell you what was really confusing is, so we drove up. Driving from Phoenix to this area of Utah is fantastic because you get to go by Lake Powell and North Rim, all that stuff. The only bad news is 15 through Vegas, if you come that way. But one thing was interesting, we stayed at Inn of the Cliff, which is on Airport Drive. There's all these airport roads, and then we're coming up 15, all of a sudden it says the airport's way down here on exit 2, way out there somewhere. We're going, do they have 2 airports? Then once we got at the Inn of the Cliff, we said, what's going across the street? And they said, Dixie State is building a technology center, and that used to be the airport up there. So we finally figured that one out, but boy, were we confused. But since we were there, and we decided to go over to Sun River. And I helped develop Sun River in Central Oregon. And there's Sun River Resort there. So we said, okay, let's go find this one. So we did find Sun River Golf. We did eat at the grill. And we're originally from Seattle. We loved it because we saw a couple of golf carts with Seahawks flags. So all you Denver fans, no. And so anyway, beautiful place. We had lunch there. I mean, just a beautiful setting. And we thought, I wonder if there's any way to get to Bloomington up there from here. Is there? No? There is? See, some of you are going, nope. Some of you are saying, see, that's just why you need wayfinding. Had no idea. Don't know where it is, nothing. And so we never did make it up to Bloomington because we didn't know how to get there. And so we did come back into town. We did check out your malls. Because one thing that I learned is that we assessed Beaver County. And we assessed Iron County, Cedar City, that area. We've assessed over in the Panguish, those areas. And whenever we ask any of those people, we even work for the Nevada Commission on Tourism in places like Mesquite. And when you ask them, where do you go to do your major shopping? What do they say? St. George. So regionally, if people are coming here from Beaver, if people are coming here from Cedar City, if people are coming here from Mesquite, you're 20 minutes closer to Mesquite than Las Vegas is, and I'm sure they'd rather come through the gorge than go down 15. That is, and by the way, you may say, well, that's not very sexy tourism. That's tourism. If they're coming here to buy cars, that's sales tax coming to you. And so we think your regional brand is you are that shopping, dining destination regionally. But then for the bigger visitors, we don't care about your malls. Or we might go to the outlets here, but beyond that, we're interested in the other things I've been showing you. So you really have a local, a regional brand, and then a bigger brand. And so, finally coming to downtown St. George. And in downtown, the wayfinding we've covered, marketing we've covered a little bit. Number 3 on that list of big is a central gathering spot. Okay? Number 4 is things to do after 6. You know what? People come to conventions not because you have a convention center. They come to conventions because when they're done at the end of the day, there's a place they can go spend time and money. That's why conventions are in Vegas and Anaheim and Orlando and the Riverwalk in San Antonio because of that. And so I want to talk about downtown for a little bit. Because for you need some work here. Number 1, the number 1 activity of visitors in the world is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly, intimate setting. It's not the reason we come. It's the number 1 activity once we arrive. And by the way, that is where 80% of non-lodging tourism spending takes place, and you're not getting it. Except for restaurants. You're not getting it. This is exactly why, I grabbed this from another, forget that. This is why Disney has downtown Disney outside each of its parks. Get that 80%. That's fact number 1. Number 2, tourism is the front door to your non-tourism economic development efforts. Anybody that's going to come here, a site selector, you know what they do? They go right into your downtown, and the health of your downtown economically is the health of the community. By the way, quality of life is leading economic development for the first time in U.S. history. Tourism promotes quality of life more than anything. That's why I say you don't have to market everything towards Zion. So downtowns and tourism should be joined at the hip, no question. And then downtowns are critical to your success. The quote I always say is, the heart and soul of any community besides people is its downtown. I mean, you know what? If you don't hang out in your downtown, neither will visitors. And we had lots of places to hang out in Springdale. We don't have lots of places to hang out in St. George with 10 times the population. And so you got to bring downtown to life. And by the way, downtowns are back and in a big way. As a matter of fact, the last suburban mall in the United States was built 23 years ago. Even retail's coming back downtown. Remember 1964? How many remember Petula Clark, 1964, the song Downtown? You just dated yourselves. Yeah, you fell for it. So downtowns are back. Here's why. We are in the age of third places. First place is the place we live. It's our home. The second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. And you know what? Starbucks built an entire brand around having third places. It works. And we are moving to the European standard. We are eating later at night. We are shopping later at night. As a matter of fact, it's where we go after working on weekends. And you're closed after work. And I don't know about the weekends. This is the future of downtowns. You have a touch of it, but not enough. And so you're way underserved for a city of, you know what? Within a 5-mile circle of the Chamber of Commerce, population is 100,000. You have a downtown that you would find, it's smaller than Springdale, population 800. And so, look at, in economic development, tourism, and community development, there's absolutely positive, I stole that from FedEx, nothing that's more important than your downtown. And by the way, it's what's in the buildings that makes you a draw. Your downtown, by the way, is stunningly beautiful. But you know what? We've been in many downtowns that are still dead as a doornail because it's what's in the buildings that makes you a draw. The rest is window dressing. So we did see the directory for the historic downtown district. We did see the gateway. It's down near the Tabernacle, I think, and thought it was very nice. I mean, the beautification is outstanding. We did go into some of your galleries, like Authentique. By the way, you have art here with world-renowned artisans. Did you know that? I mean, you don't play up the art at all. I'm going, my gosh, you have it in spades. You do have, a couple of blocks. You basically have like one block on one side because the other side is like an office building. And so you've got a start of it, but way, way underserved. You've got some great merchants right in here. I mean, it's really a great little spot that I don't know if anybody knows it exists. There's no wayfinding to it. You don't really know where to park. We did see wayfinding down here by the town square, but that was the only sign anywhere in downtown. And by the way, the sign is right next to it. We're already there. And by the way, we've been to town square before. In the summer, we went there this time. It's beautiful. It's a great place, but this is not a plaza. Plazas have to be monetized. They have to have restaurants. They have to have retail. They have to play. This is a place we bring kids to go hang out. It's not a place we just hang out to have something to drink or something to eat. And so, and this is Jane a couple years ago riding the carousel. Now, this time the carousel is closed. There's no signs that say when or if it's ever open. I mean, you're coming into your busy season. When is the carousel open? Does anybody even know? See? So think about visitors when you don't even know. And so that is the challenge. There's the Children's Museum there, which we thought was great. And then there is Capoletti's, which, by the way, is where we ate the night before last. It is awesome. And it absolutely should be on that list too. Really great place. Great reviews. And so we did go down to the Chamber of Commerce, checked out visitor information. They were very helpful there. We did see the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. There was a sign in the door that said closed, but we didn't know what the hours were, so we never got a chance to go in. Little things like we saw this. What's in here? Are there displays that say where it is, what it is? Okay. See, we didn't know because it wasn't marketed. And it would be good if they had just a brochure holder or something somewhere that would tell us about this. So we didn't go in. We weren't too sure. We did see this incredible gallery right here, Arrowhead Gallery, which was awesome. I mean, it's really cool because you can actually see artisans in there working. I mean, it was really great. And we even thought, could you promote Artisans Row or Gallery Row? Not just each gallery, but in your best of. Put in, we've got Authentique, we've got this, plus there's the other art gallery, which, by the way, we missed because we walked up Main to the roundabout and thought that was it. But we just thought you could group those together as a best of. Your art here is amazing. And then of course, then there's the Electric Theater. I mean, we were just stunned by, here's what I said. You have one of the most stunningly beautiful downtowns we've ever seen. Remember, we've worked in 1,500 communities and been in all 50 states. I don't know who does this. Is this Parks Department, the city? They do a fantastic job. So it is Parks Department? Yeah. See, I love this. I'm going to use you as the example now. Because most cities give downtown beautification to Public Works. What Public Works sees is all the stuff is going to clog up our storm drains. Right? I mean, no offense. We probably got Public Works people here. They're going to hate me now. Their job is infrastructure. So I love it when a city says Parks and Rec. They're about this stuff. Fantastic. So I'll use you as the poster child. Love the art, like the buffalo right there. Or bison, more correctly, according to the museum right next door. Love the water walk. I wish there were little displays that talk about the plants, but I'd like to know, where does this come from? Where does it go? Does it recirculate? I mean, it really is a cool little thing, this water walk. And we just found it. You know, even this, up at that intersection, top of Main, we're just walking around going, oh my gosh. And so you know what? I don't think we've ever done this before. I called it Main Street Gardens. Just to walk up and down Main Street there is just, it's almost as soothing as the Botanic Park. It's just really great. Just, I mean, and then we looked at one of those maps and said, oh my gosh, we missed the Opera House and the Art Museum. So we did walk up there. And they have, I think this might be where it originates. Is this where the water thing? No, it originates somewhere. But, well, we know it originates somewhere, but I don't know where. We guessed it might be here. But that'd be cool to have, say, here's how this works. But really, really beautiful up there. We did walk down to Brigham Young's summer house, which closes at 4. We got there at 5 minutes to 4, and they were already closing it up. And I think it's run by senior missionaries, but looks great. Great place. Then we did go over and see the Opera House, but once again, it does have, here's a few things that are happening, and so that was good. It had a reader board. And by the way, the only other wayfinding anywhere in downtown is up here where nobody would ever see it anyway. You know, that's up between the two. I mean, that's it for wayfinding. And so I just really, really, really pretty. Great place. We did go through the art museum, and it's no photography. They tell you like 100 times in there. No photographs. And so we didn't take any, but if you get a chance, you got to go in there. They have all the national parks on display. This is the 100th anniversary of the national parks. And what's really cool, go upstairs in there, they have fiber art quilting. You got to see the detail on these quilts. I mean, I'm not a quilter, but I got to tell you, I was really impressed at the details that look like photographs, and it's all done with sewing machine fabric. Pretty impressive. And so we did go to Ancestor Square. Of course, we ate at Painted Pony, which is there. And we kept going, where do we build this central gathering place? What do we do? How do we do this here? How do we? And one thing we noticed about Ancestor Square, it was really a shame that it's starting to get full of offices instead of more restaurants and retail. And you know what? You will never go to a mall, a successful mall, and find offices. They know they have to have like businesses grouped together. And so here we saw vacant spaces. We just saw it look like it's really struggling, which is too bad because it shouldn't be. And that brings us to the central gathering mix, or the central gathering spot. In your downtown, in 3 lineal blocks. And it can be a block this way, block this way, block this way, but not square blocks. In 3 lineal blocks, you need to have that. And this is called the 10-10-10 rule, and this is the minimum of what you need in 3 lineal blocks. Here you go. 10 places that sell food. 10. So if we start with the Authentic Gallery, Authenticate, or what is it? Authentique, that's it. Authentique Gallery, if we go down 2 blocks, then turn left and go in front of Capoletti's, I kind of consider that 1, 2, 3. If you want to make that work and be a downtown, this is the minimum. You need to have 10 of those. Okay? Then you need to have 10 destination retail shops. And you have close, you don't have quite the restaurants, you're close to these because galleries are destination retail shops. And here's the third 10. You ready? 10 of those open after 6. I mean, this place shuts down at 6. And that's really sad for an urban setting like you have. And so, in your downtown, you should have consistent hours and days. You should be open late into the evening hours. You need to have like businesses grouped together. I mean, you need to have anchor tenants. And it should be a central gathering place. I mean, think about this. Antique malls do 10 times the business when they're all together. And every little booth in an antique mall is a competitor. I mean, auto malls. You have auto malls. Why does Mercedes want to be right across the street from Ford, Toyota, and Subaru? I can't remember the dealerships down there. Because people do 7 times the business when they're grouped together. I mean, think about that. Corner gas station, lifestyle retail centers, food courts. It's clustering. Sometimes you have to orchestrate the effort. And if you read the paper, if you read the spectrum, we told this to Cedar City. We think every downtown should have a plaza because in Europe they all do. And they're monetized. There's restaurants and retail on the plaza. Town Square is not a plaza. It's a park. It's a beautiful park. But you still don't have the gathering place. And so we kept going. So here you are. Here's downtown. So here is Authentique Galleries up here. So here's Main. And we thought, could you do this one block, one block, one block? The problem is this side, there's nothing. It's all on one side. And if we take all of Ancestor Square there, then we've got, this here is, I think, like a bank. And I thought 1, 2, you could do 10, 10, 10 here. It's a little bit to the edge, of barely being able to do it. And you do have public parking here. But what you see on this side is it's all banks and office buildings. And by the way, you don't even have signs to the public parking garage. We love having public parking. The apostrophe fell off, but So we thought, where do you do this? Where do you do this? And so I thought, if you could go, if there was some way to talk to the owners of Ancestor Square, if you could get rid of these 34 parking spaces, parking garage is a block and a half away. By the way, parking, if you ever hear a merchant say you take away the parking, you're going to kill my business. Here's your response. Are you telling me your business isn't worth walking 2 blocks for? I'd walk half a mile for the painted pony. Think about this. The average person that shops at Walmart parks 140 feet away from the front door. Yet they have no problem walking 140 feet to the front door and then all the way to the back of the store to buy the next Blu-ray or DVD. They just walked 2 blocks and it must have been worth it. I thought if you had all kinds of outdoor cafes, food trucks, a little stage right here, and you had entertainers, street musicians and stuff. You could bring this back to life. I would start to switch out your offices stuff and make it. If you had 20 restaurants in there instead of 4 or whatever it is, you'd have people coming here from Cedar City just to eat in Ancestor Square. So where do you do this? Because you know what? The other thing is, we're moving to the European standard. We want out of our cars and we want a pedestrian experience. You ought to see how crowded this is at night, people trying to park right here to get pizza. It's just a traffic jam. Matter of fact, we didn't eat there because of it. But if they knew they had to park, there's all parking up here too. But we just thought, if somewhere you need to create a place that's pedestrian friendly where people can go hang out and you have musicians. You've got a university. I'm sure they have a good music program. This could be a place for them to come and hang out. It's just a great opportunity. So you have 4 ways to make your downtown great again. You can reorchestrate the business mix, which means work on getting that 10-10-10, which means you got to work with property owners. Or you can have developers build a lifestyle retail center somewhere, and guess what? I don't know if you've ever been up to Station Park in Farmington. That's a lifestyle retail center. It's beautifully landscaped. Problem is, it's not organic. It's all full of chains. This is really a great opportunity for you. So I don't suggest that. You could develop a programmed year-round public plaza. I don't know where we would put it, but it has to be ringed. I even thought, could we close off a part of a street? What could we do? Or you could develop a public market. So here's what you have to do. If you want to bring downtown back, you have to get people downtown 250 days a year. That's what it takes. Wherever people are, retailers will follow. So when you do events like weekend public markets and stuff, it's not consistent enough. So when you do this, if you can activate it $250 days a year, you will win. Or you could have a plaza, or you could have a public market. And by the way, I also gave this idea to Cedar City, so whoever does it first is going to win. There's competition for you. Somebody in southern Utah needs to do a really cool public market. And by the way, public markets are open 7 days a week typically, maybe 6 days a week, and they're open till 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And they rotate around. So whoever does this somewhere in southern Utah, it's going to be a tourist attraction, and it's going to be where the 150,000 people that live within a 20-mile radius come and spend time. So public markets. And by the way, I'm going to show you a new model that could be done. In Asheville, they did an art market. This is an old Woolworth store, and it's all full of local art. So when we say public market, it could be part farmer's market, part art market. It could be part, home accents. This is kind of a new model. This is a single-story version, but this model here, you could roll up the garage doors on 3 sides and it becomes a pavilion market. See what I mean? So if you have bad weather, and by the way, you could empty out the market and it's all an open pavilion. This might be it on the inside. This is the 2-story version with balcony shops. All this you could clear out for major events, or it could be market events. So that's one idea. The other one is the year-round program plaza, and I did show this in Cedar City, and I'm going to show you because I think every city should have one of these. This is Main Street Square in Rapid City, which is a population of 70,000. Your population of 100, because I'm not including the towns around. I am including the towns around you. And their challenge, how to increase tourism spending. And the reason I think this is important for you is because you have what I call the Rapid City Conundrum, which I'm going to show you in a minute. By the way, there you go. Within a circle of 5 miles from the Chamber of Commerce office, within 10 miles, 126,000. You go out 20 miles, 152,000. That's just your immediate market. And by the way, I'm not sure how you got that many people live out here. There's just like nothing on the map. But look at that, 100,000. Yeah, the airport is. I think it's out here. No, I'm kidding. I think it's like right out here somewhere. I don't know where it's at. When we worked in Rapid City, I called them the hole in the middle of the donut. I could say the same thing about you. Because you know what? 4 million people go through there every year, just like you. They go right through here on 15. And they might spend the night in Rapid City. They get up in the morning and they leave. Then they come back at night and they're not doing that 80%, right? The 80% of spending. They go to Mount Rushmore, 20 minutes away. They'll go to Badlands National Park or the Pinnacles in Custer State Park, where actually the buffalo still do actually roam wild. They might go to the historic casino town of Deadwood, about 20 minutes away. Or they'll go to Sturgis, the largest motorcycle rally in the world. There's Badlands National Park down the street. Or the Black Hills. Or they'll go to Devil's Tower. And you know what I told them? Quit marketing the Badlands and Devil's Tower because it's an hour and a half away. Why would we come back? Or you can go to Keystone, which has a great little district right near Mount Rushmore, or Hill City, which is an art town. So this is what was happening. And this is kind of what is happening in St. George. We might stay there, but this is what we do every day. We get up and we spend our time and our money somewhere else. And that's exactly what was the problem there. Even these things were not even close to their downtown. Not even that. And so you know what I told them? They're looking for tourism, and I walked downtown in the middle of July, and they're in South Dakota, and right now we're coming into your busy season. Your hotels are starting to get filled up. Your condos are being filled up. And yet your downtown is still dead as a door now. Same thing I had in Rapid City. I see like 3 people walking around downtown. This is the middle of their peak season. Nothing is going on. I mean, they said, well, we have displays of presidents all through our downtown. You might say, we have public art all through our downtown. Yeah. In their case, once we go find our favorite president, we'll go wrap our arm around him, get our picture taken, and then we've been there and done it. There's no reason to come back. It can't be static displays. There's John that works for us, And so we told them that right in the middle of downtown, they should tear out some buildings and build a plaza right there. Matter of fact, this is a 60-space parking lot, 1 acre. We told them, turn this parking lot into a plaza. Don't even make up the parking. And of course, oh, you're going to take away the park. I mean, we heard the huge outcry. Myth, not reality. We found 100 plazas in the United States where they took out parking and did not replace the parking, and their downtown sales and everything went through the roof in a good way. We said, tear down the Sears building and make a 2-acre plaza. Pigeons were living in that building. I got a call like a week later. Matter of fact, we even just, wanted them to take that. Here's one of their presidents. I got a call. Roger, this is Ray Hillebrand. I own the property right across the street over here. He goes, we're not taking down that Sears building because I just bought it. But I also gave the city $2 million to build a plaza right next to my new building. He now gets twice as much per square foot, and his building's worth twice that. It was the best investment he could have ever made. He has the most valuable building in Rapid City, and it's full of restaurants and retail, right on the square. So here it is before. And by the way, 1 story, 2 stories said, could you build a 3rd-story parking garage, parking up here, not to make up this parking? Because we wanted to put restaurants, we wanted to put restrooms, visitor information in this bottom floor, back in quite a ways. So that is it. This is what we told them to design. Of course, the Sears building's right here, so they had to redesign it. And you know what? So there it is before. There it is under construction. There's that Sears building. And there it is after. Look at that. Sunday, July 8th at 10 a.m. Packed. Just absolutely packed. All of a sudden, quilt guilds wanted to host shows there. All of a sudden, car shows started coming, motorcycle shows. Everybody wanted to host events in downtown Rapid City. There's that Sears building right there. I mean, it just took off. I mean, it just is amazing. This is 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It changed everything in Rapid City. They spent a lot of money building these big granite things, which they said they wish they wouldn't have done. But it's pretty incredible. This morning they had the police they had their dogs there. There's always something going on. They're showing their dogs jumping over these things. I mean, it was quite the show. And of course, a car show was going on in the middle of the street. They closed down the street for it. They have a splash pad right here they shut off for that dog show. They wish that splash pad was a lot bigger. And, and there it is when it's going. When I went back there and I saw this going, we came up with the idea, but they had to do all the heavy lifting. They had to tear down buildings. They had to buy real estate. They had to fundraise for this. But when I saw these little kids playing there, I started to cry. Because now there was a sense of community. I think people here are very connected to their neighborhoods, probably very connected to the local their ward or wherever they're at church, probably very connected to schools, but I don't know that your local is really connected to St. George. The average age of a person buying a house in Rapid City in 3 years of this dropped 12 years. The youth were coming back. And down the road, this was an old fire station. It's now Firehouse Brewing Company. There's Dan who runs it. Main Street Fun Squared. Main Street Square Fun Squared. And I got to tell you, this place, you can see there's a stage right there. There's music on the stage. They have this circle area. There's the splash pad down there. This is about 8,000 square feet, this circle right here. They wish they could have done a lot of things different. There it is during the summer months. 120 days a year, the splash pad is going. But here's the difference between it and your splash pad. This splash pad is monetized. There's all kinds of restaurants and retail right there. And this is it in the winter. 120 days. There's 240 days worth of activity. By the way, they make $130,000 a year renting ice skates and they have to dole them out because it gets too packed. That's bigger than Rockefeller Center's ice rink. Just that. I mean, and then every night at 10 o'clock, music starts, the water goes, and it puts on this little show. And look what people are saying. I love this square. Someone who works downtown, I've seen the differences it's made. I see so many more locals coming down here that just hang out and have fun. And I come back downtown in the evenings and weekends now, which I never did before. I bet you we'd have that same comment here. And then I love seeing my friends, colleagues, and everyone from my cashier at the grocery store to my hairdresser to the mayor hanging around events at the square. It gives a sense of community that we only had at summer nights before. By the way, they do summer nights for 13 weeks every summer. Average attendance is 13,000. They do movies on the square. Average attendance every Monday night, 3,500. How would you like to have 3,500 people in your downtown every evening? I grew up in Rapid City. It was never as cool as it is now. So, look at that. It's the missing ingredient. By the way, businesses complain, oh, everybody's going to be at the square, nobody will be in my store. Or you just took away 60 parking places, you're going to kill my business. So you know what I had them do? I said, make a list of the 25 retailers that complain the most. I'm going to go secret shop them. And in 14 of them, I ran into the owner or the manager of that retail store, and I asked every single one of them, you know that square, see the face, you know that square over there? Does that really help your business? Every single one of them said it's the best thing Rapid City has ever done. There are no retail vacancies. There's hardly any turnover. They're now open late into the evening hours. The retailers are breaking sales records, and the average population is dropping. And you know what? Now all of a sudden, it's a great place for conferences and conventions because there's something to do after the end of the day. So, it is the central gathering place. It's a year-round activity center. It includes interactive water features, ice. It's programmable. By the way, for you, synthetic ice can work. They did it in Walnut Creek, California, and they use synthetic ice, and it is really cool. And it's all seamless and everything. So I understand that you're a desert location, you know, but that can work for you. And it includes a stage, lighting, sound system, food year-round. It has to be monetized. Cities everywhere are starting to do it. This is in Caldwell, Idaho, population 50,000. The city bought these buildings, tore them down. They already own this parking lot. They're working with these landlords to open up the back of this. And they had this Indian Creek. They created this beautiful Indian Creek downtown. But the problem is it's not a plaza, it's a park. It's like your town square. And so they're going to take that and turn it into a plaza, actually close off this street. So all of the stuff interconnects. And it's going to be like that. I mean, all this could be ice in the winter. They got about 8,000 square feet of water feature. You can shut off this water feature, fill all this full of tables for the Taste of St. George. Or you can fill all full of chairs for concerts on the stage. Even the base of these trees are seating areas. Then you have all your vendor booths, restaurants. That's a plaza. You know, can you imagine if this was available to visitors and locals every morning in your downtown? I mean, things like this, you know, things like this. I mean, this is happening everywhere. This is up in Edmonton, Alberta. They're taking this. It used to be a gas station, and they're going to turn it into that. These are the kinds of things that will bring people downtown and will just bring it all back. And by the way, this is for your 100,000 people. I told Cedar City, he says, well, yeah, but if you go sell this in St. George, I said, no, Cedar City, you take care of your 25,000 people. St. George, this is for you as locals. And so, there you go. Here's the thing I want to give you. 787 rule. 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. The city is doing an incredible job with its beautifications. Your merchants, for the most part, aren't. We all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a good place to eat. That's curb appeal. So there you go. Number 2, women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting. Usually there's a guy in the audience that says, that's all? You know what's funny is right down the hall they're doing, what's the conference? It's What Women Want. They want beautification because it makes it feel safe. You're downtown after 6 o'clock last night on Main Street. It's so dark. I don't know where the street lights are or anything. It is just pitch black dark. It doesn't feel safe. And it's just those couple of blocks. And so they account for 80% of all spending. But let me tell you what they want. Women account for 70% of the decision where we're going to start or relocate a business. They account for 70% of where we stay, where we eat on vacations, 80% of all consumer spending. And the guys are now going, yeah, tell me something I didn't know. But that's who your marketing should cater to. And then here's the third one. And by the way, look at that picture. What do you see? Yeah, been there, done that? The guys are on the benches while the wives are in shopping. That was not staged. So I have 2 words for you. Think benches. You know, that's Cedar City. So if you have benches, by the way, benches should always be at the facade facing out with a pot on each side. Not on the lawn area facing the building. We people watch the other direction. Look at this. Love this retail. Doesn't that look cool? By the way, this merchant is very smart. There's a little sign by the door that says, your husband called, he said to buy anything you want. And here's the third one. 70% of all consumer retail spending takes place after 6 p.m. 70%. And your downtown is closed. So we have to go, so you know what? Go to Walmart. Go to Costco. That figure came from the National Retail Federation, Walgreens, CVS, all those. You think they're going to tell downtowns? No. But there you go. So you're making us go out to the mall, and nothing against the mall, by the way. Nothing against the mall at all. You're making us go to the mall, the outlet center. I'll bet you all those places, if you have a space in there, in any one of those that says you're going to open at 9 or 10, and you're not going to close till 9 or 10. It's in their lease agreement. And by the way, in a mall lease, if you open it 5 minutes late, it's $1,000 for every 5 minutes you open late. They know the importance of consistency. Same with your downtown. 7-8-7 rule. And then finally, you need a unique selling proposition. This is called branding. And Greg said, you know what, when you come and do this, we want you to touch on branding. By the way, there are 19,500 cities and towns in the United States. I could find any one of them in a second if you just give me the name. All I do is Google the name. Such and such town. You know, I could say Orangeville, Utah. And in half a second, depending on your internet speed, I could tell you how many people live there, what there is to do there, their city website. So what sets you apart from everyone else? How do you stand out from the crowd? And you need to find your unique selling proposition. By the way, why this is important is we are hit with 5,000 marketing messages a day. And by the way, everybody from Provo south is promoting the Mighty Five. So when you promote Zion, so is everyone else. And so we're put 5,000 marketing messages a day, way more than our minds can absorb. So you know what our minds do? We filter out anything that doesn't appeal to us. So if we're driving down the road, we hear an ad on the radio that is for horseback riding. If I don't care about horseback riding, my mind just shuts it off, and I won't remember. But if I say, woo, I love horseback riding, our ears perk up. And so our minds are now conditioned to tell us which one of these works. This is why having something for everyone never works. It never works. Have you gone anywhere that said, we have something for everyone? No, you go where there's something for you, whether it's mountain biking, fishing, antiques, whatever it is. And so this is the big sad statistic across the United States, because you're trying to be all things to all people. Everybody's saying the very same thing. I did this at 2 state tourism conferences here, where I put this, I say avoid these words and phrases in your headlines. You can put them in what we call the body text. But look at this. See all these words and phrases? Could these fit anybody anywhere in Utah or Arizona or Nevada? Yeah. And you wonder why 97% of marketing doesn't work. I speak in Wisconsin, a woman jumped up in the audience and says, I think we're using all of those. Explore, discover, experience our outdoor recreation, which is unlike anywhere else. We have so much to see and do in our fork. She went right down the list. But, you know, real Utah, woohoo. Well, isn't everybody in Utah real Utah except Ogden? I'm coming to them. I mean, look. Okay, economic development. Let me just pick on tourism. Look at this. This is what everybody says. How's that working for you? You know, I mean, you know, I don't know how many times you hear the word grow and opportunity when it comes to economic development. But you know what's going to, for the first time in U.S. history, quality of life is leading economic development. That's what you have in spades. And so, there you go. So, to win, businesses narrow their focus, and so do communities. So here's the 10 things you need to know about branding. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time. And we're not talking about logos and slogans. Logos and slogans make up 2% of a brand, but they always get all the political attention locally. I mean, have you ever gone anywhere, have you said, whoa, I want to head up to South Jordan, they have a really cool logo? Or have you said, you know, I really don't want to go over to Hurricane because I think their logo sucks? See, it doesn't matter. By the way, I have no idea what either of those logos look like. But that's the thing. I mean, or a catchy slogan. So that's number one. Logos and slogans are not what's going to sell people when coming to St. George. Number two, a brand is what people think of you. You know, what do you think of when you see Borrego Springs, California? What's your first impression? Pretty poor, huh? Would you even stop? No. See, that's you made in your mind. You went, no way. Or how I love this one in Albion, Michigan. Welcome to Albion. You know, people come here to die, I guess. So it's a perception. It's what people say about you. It is the perception when we walk in here and have a bad experience the first time. And I'm glad we came back because we had a great experience the second time. It's what people say about you. It's what we read about you. You know, it's what's being said about you. And then, so it's a perception. Number three, it's also a promise. Whatever you're putting out there, are you delivering on the promise? I love this. Are you saying this is what we have, and then when they arrive, this is what they get? See what I mean? Are you delivering on the promise? And all brands are built on product, not marketing. So, you know, here, I love this. Marketing will get us to you exactly once. It's only product that's going to bring us back. I mean, that is so critical. This, how many of you have eaten it at the the Forsher Bakery in Orderville? Anybody know it? Okay. Orderville has a population of about 700. And Chris Oderkirchen, who is Dutch, opened up a German bakery in Orderville on your way to Kanab. And people will, as a matter of fact, one time I was here with Jane, and we're driving back down to Kanab from Emery County or somewhere, and I said, we're not stopping for lunch till we get here. We got there like at 2:30 in the afternoon. It's like, we're both starving, but it's that good. It's an anchor tenant. And by the way, it's at the place, the girls that work there, and there's guys too, they do a great job. And it's put Orderville on the map. And so, you need to have an anchor tenant. Brands always have a razor-sharp focus. And even in business, lawyers, if you go down, call Russ Brown, motorcycle attorneys. See what I mean? Or how do you like this one? Says it's better to talk. It's marriage counseling. Get it? I mean, here's another attorney. It's intellectual property. Everybody's specializing. Doctors, real estate agents. I love this one. It says guys plus jump, I'll catch you, plus whoopsie daisy equals that's why we only insure women. I love that one. But even insurance companies are specializing. First for women. I mean, hotels. This is Westin Hotels. It's their heavenly beds. They make more money selling heavenly beds now than they do overnight stays. Even Holiday Inn Express, they're saying we have the #1 guest rated shower head. Everybody's trying to find their point of differentiation. Why would I stay at this hotel versus this hotel for this hotel? What differentiates you? This is the Ventana Inn in Big Sur, California. You know what they did? They spent $3 million to remodel our hotel. By the way, a third of their guests were families with kids. You know what they did? Spent $3 million, remodeled it, and said this: no kids, be kids. So how would you like to spend $3 million, get rid of a third of your guests, and then say nobody under 21 can stay here? Well, guess what? They were running at 34% occupancy. They're now running at about 97% occupancy at about $450 a night versus $120 a night. They paid their $3 million back in 2 years. They narrowed their focus. Narrow your focus, and you have to do it as a city. And you know what? Businesses learned it. Cities need to do. Your name must be synonymous with your brand. And give the state something to promote that differentiates you. Now, you're the only place in Utah that palm trees can live. And you already have a brand, and I'm going to get to that. But first, your name needs to be synonymous with your brand. So, okay, this audience participation. Who owns the country music capital? Nashville. They own it. Okay, who owns gambling and adult fun? Las Vegas. Okay, who owns kids and family? You just did what I thought. It just goes to show that the brand trumps the location. You said Disney, right? Okay, music theater capital, who owns it? It's not New York. Branson, Missouri, a town of 10,000 people. It has 49 music theaters and 7.5 million visitors a year. Okay, how about Graceland Elvis? How come hardly anybody knows that? Memphis. Do you think there's more there than just Graceland? Yes. Some people say no. But winery capital, Napa Valley. Frozen Tundra. Any football fans? Green Bay. Yeah, guys. Green Bay. You're right. And they said, well, gee, we want to be known for something other than the frozen tundra. We have the same weather as Chicago and Minneapolis. And they got that from a game played in 1967. So, Hershey, Pennsylvania, what's their brand? You got it. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, what's their brand? Civil War. Good, you're doing good. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. See? And, Washington, D.C. Right, corruption. Okay, government. Hollywood. Yeah, movies and stars. St. George. Polygamists. No. I think we have more polygamists in Arizona than you have in Utah now. It's always so. Anyway, you cannot be all things to all people. To win, you have to narrow your focus. And successful brands own their niche. So I'm going to show you some in Utah. We are working in Flaming Gorge. It's no longer Daggett County as far as marketing goes. And their brand is America's most scenic trophy trout destination. And so they ran these ads, and we spiced them up a little bit and gave them new headlines like this one. They have the largest trout catches in the United States. They have 15,000 trout per mile. The product is there to back it up. Size matters. And so there it is, Flaming Gorges. I mean, everything they're doing, flaming gorgeous. But fishing is their key thing. Trophy trout destination, Flaming Gorge. Okay? You want to go up to Brigham City, Box Elder County, no more marketing counties, which you're doing, which is great. The West's best birding experience. But you know the problem is, birding hits 3 to 4% of the population. But you know what's cool is, you know the big SLR, DSLR cameras now, the big bulky Canons and Nikons and Sonys and stuff? They're outselling the smaller little cameras. I mean, we use our cell phones for quick pictures. They're outselling them 10 to 1. They're selling more big cameras today than they ever have in U.S. history. So he said, what if we did make the focus can be birding, but what if we make the focus about photography? Redefining living art. Now, how does this work when you have, Box Elder County also goes, you ever heard of the sun tunnels out near Bonneville Salt Flats? That's part of Box Elder County. So how do you, I mean, this is great. This is right next to I-15. So this is what their ads look like. Redefining living art. And the basis is photography. Redefining living art. I mean, and then you want to go out to those sun tunnels. You know what they are? Big old concrete things. People are now driving 2.5 hours to do that. It's all about photography. They found their niche. And I mean, it's actually pretty cool what they're doing out there. So, we could go into Emery County. We told them, hang your hat in Goblin Valley. I mean, particularly Green River in that southern area, because there's no place like it on earth. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if they ran ads like this, an out-of-this-world experience at the cinema and right here on earth? The Martian, which, by the way, was filmed in Jordan rather than, too bad it wasn't filmed in Goblin Valley. But you know what they could do? Social media, they're going to start doing this. They want people to tell their story. You know, what's your story? Running with the goblins. Or look at this. We just took this off of Google Images and we pitched the tent, went to sleep, and during the night we were surrounded by goblins. You know, so people could just tell their story. You know, so there's whatever it is, and look at Goblin Valley. Otherworldly. Castle Valley, you go up north, Orangeville, Castledale. We thought, what do they hang there at? You know what? They have one of the West's best bouldering destination called Joe's Valley. I mean, we went there were people from multiple states there. So we did, see, there you go, Orangeville, Utah. Don't limit your challenge, challenge your limits. What's your niche? Because the state would like to say, what's your passion? Here's where you'll find it. I mean, and that's what they're doing. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Green River. It's one of the few places where you can ride, rinse, and repeat. Because they got both the slick rock and they got the river. I mean, so what is it? And by the way, memorable brands evoke emotion. We just got done doing branding for Ogden. And this is what their ads look like. And they talk in this one, for years, John M. Browning designed firearms for every firearm company. He invented the semi-automatic rifle, and Browning would not do it. So I mean Browning, Remington, I think it was, or Winchester, there it is. Winchester told him there'd be no market for a semi-automatic rifle. So John M. Browning started his own firearms company, one of the biggest in the world, because he's from Ogden, Utah. I mean, you know, it goes on and on. During the Prohibition era, Al Capone could have gone anywhere and done anything, but he avoided the speakeasies and brothels of Ogden, Utah, telling his cronies, it's a little too rowdy for my taste. While no one messes with Al Capone was smart enough not to mess with Ogden, Utah. You know, love this. Basketball player in Oakland, California, named Damian Lillard. Good high school, prospect and everything. No major university picked him up anywhere. He gets a call from this little place called Weber State. This lily white LDS community in Ogden, Utah, and offered him a full ride scholarship. And he went there. He broke every single collegiate record. I mean, then he was picked number 6 overall in the NBA draft with the Portland Trail Blazers. He just signed a $130 million signing bonus. He wears the letter 0. To him stands for O, for Oakland, Ogden, and Oregon. And you know what? Everywhere he goes, he wears his Ogden-made t-shirt. That is how you evoke emotion. So how do you promote Ogden, Utah? They're probably the least LDS town in the state because they were formed on rail and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean they want to diss that. But how do they be edgy without going over the edge? And wherever we went in restaurants, you know what? The people in Ogden absolutely love Ogden. The people in the Salt Lake Valley go, Ogden, I'm so sorry you have to live there. Right? I mean, they have that kind of a reputation. You go off Interstate 15 and you're going to see, you pull down the bottom of the exit, you'll see old shacky houses with blue tarps on them and you hear banjo music. Okay, for you that got that reference. But I mean, that's the first impression. But you know what's really cool? When you ask somebody, you go in there and you will hear this. Literally, you'll hear this. What do you think of Ogden? I freaking love it here. We had quite the discussion over using friggin', that edgy stuff, I mean, and it says everyone who lives in Ogden. That's who says it. I mean, it works. They have the best downtown in all of Utah, 25th Street. And guess what? They're winning national awards. Evoke emotion. And brands list for generations. So whatever your brand is, you have a brand. I'm going to get to that. And in Ogden, this was their brand, A History of Violence, Ogden's 25th Street. When we first went there, we talked to people, says, oh yeah, when I was growing up, my grandma said, okay, we're going to church, duck down as we drive through 25th Street so you don't get shot. But you know what? And now they're just saying, they're not apologizing. And they become really cool. Look what they've done. While we've replaced bootlegging, prostitution, and gambling with skiing, climbing, kayaking, and mountain biking, Ogden's soul will always remain untamed. And by the way, if you want homogenized, we're probably not for you. And by the way, that is their tagline, still untamed. And Weber State's using it, the city's using it, everybody's used it. And by the way, brands have to be more in skin deep. We're working in Battle Creek, Michigan, the home of Kellogg. And Kellogg was founded on healthy living. They even have this institute there. And they said we should do our whole brand on healthy living, even though Kellogg was known more for Frosted Flakes than anything healthy. So we did the research and we found they are the fattest county in the United States. We said you can't use this brand until you can deliver on the promise. And so, where's your brand? And if you have to explain it, toss it. So, in a nutshell, there you go. Logo slogans, it's a perception, and it's a promise, and it better be built on product, and they have a sharp focus. Your name should be synonymous with it. I mean, we could just go right down that. Okay? And by the way, we're providing both Roxy over at Tourism and Greg at the Chamber with this entire presentation. And so, 5 things about branding. Here's how you do it. And I'll do this fairly quick. Number 1, here's where you are today, and I just did that with you. We just spent the last couple hours. Here's where you are today from the eyes of an outsider. Next thing you need to do is ask the locals. When somebody comes up to you 5 years and you say, I'm from St. George, what will they say? Right now, they're going to say, oh, are you retired, a snowbird, or a golfer? That is your brand. You're known everywhere for those. And so you do the research. So you ask the locals, of all those ideas, which one is the most feasible? Then you develop the action plan, no more strategic plans, and then you have to go sell it. And by the way, city of St. George or St. George City. And in Utah, everybody does city afterwards. Ogden City, Brigham City, you know what I mean? And so this needs to come from your locals. Chamber represents private sector, tourism represents private sector, economic development represents private sector, downtowns represent private sector. Your city council people, your mayor right here, they're elected to be all things to all people. Brands can't be. So you, as citizens, as business people, say, we found a brand for St. George we love, we want to hang on to. We need your help, city, where it's appropriate for you. And that way you don't put them into that. Develop the action plan. And this is branding. Ogden just did one of these. Emory County's working on it. What is it you want to be known for? What do you have to do so you own it? How do you tell the world? And there's the to-do list. That's how you do branding. And every one of these communities, you need it more than anybody. Ogden, is one of the biggest cities. Provo has its brand. Guess what it is? BYU. But when people say St. George, they see retirement, snowbirds, and golf. And you may be saying, hey, we're good with that. But strategies, goals, objectives, no more than 10 pages. I say 3. This is what an action plan is. What you see coming up on the screen right now. That is an action plan. And that's what you need to do. It's a plan that sits on your desk, not on a shelf. I always say if it gets over 100 pages, nobody's going to read it. They're going to read an executive summary and then set it on a shelf. That's what you need. And by the way, there's only 3 killers of branding. Number 1 is local politics, and it's worse with membership organizations than it is with elected officials. Am I right, Greg? He knows, right? Lack of champions and lack of money, both public and private. By the way, the best brands were built in private sector development. Napa Valley and Wine, Orlando, Anaheim. I mean, you name all of the best bands. Branson, Missouri, 49 music theaters are all privately owned. That's it. And by the way, Champions was in gold because they're the right champions. They'll get through the politics. They'll find a way to make it happen. There it is. This is what we think, and I've thought for years, golf, retirement, snowbirds, winter sun. But you know what? 2 of the best brands in the United States are Scottsdale, Arizona. Money, right? People think Scottsdale is money, spas, resorts, and golf. It has 10 times the recognition that St. George has. Sedona. I mean, it is the alternative medicine, the wellness. I mean, it owns it around the world. You need to own yours around the world. You have what it takes. That's your 2 competitors. And so there you are now. And so I thought, here's the very best. And by the way, we saw a golf, it's a Golf Digest or golfadvisor.com said the number 1 St. George golf course is in Hurricane. Number 2 was in, do you remember, G? In Washington. Number 3 is in Sun River. And so we put that there because we think golf, no matter what, is always going to be part of what your background is. I do have to tell you that it's the fastest declining sport in the United States. So every successful brand has to have an anchor tenant. What is it? And when you go to the tourism with the counties, when it talks about this, it says St. George area is a mecca for sports. And so, Huntsman, these are the things that happen here. You've got all of these different things here that promote sports. And sports could be a good one because we couldn't find any city in the state of Utah that owns sports. Everybody has sports facilities, but coming soon is a development called Desert Colors. It's still in the works. I have Brooke Cole. Where's Brooke at? There he is up there, who represents this. And down at Exit 2, there was an RFP on state-owned land to develop something cool, private sector. This will help build out towards the airport. And the focus of that development is sports. And we're not talking about just fields. We're talking about destination sports. We're talking about, this is one that we're associated with in Pasco, Washington. So we're talking about really where people come no matter what their ability is to engage in sports. And besides that, they might have these kinds of things. Or that's a climbing wall there, or these different kinds of cool ropes courses. So this would be a family destination, but the focus is sports. So this is one idea. Matter of fact, this, I don't have sound hooked up, but I even thought maybe sound is kind of hooked up. So here you go, Cole. Here you go, Brooke. I want you to build one of these. So you have to build some hills, but I think you could do something right here that would be pretty cool. And this is called the Zorb. There are people in that, and they come rolling down the hill, and then you try to outrun them. And by the way, now, if you had that here, I would actually drive from Phoenix just to do that. See what I mean by finding something? So I'm not, there you go. Shoop. You guys see, I love Zorb. This was invented in New Zealand or Australia, and it's... Whoa! Isn't that fun? Now, would you do that? So what they're talking about there is creating the anchor tenant. And so whether it has this, I don't know. But I just planted the seed. So Brooke had not seen this before. I saw this. I had this. I thought, oh, this would be so cool there. It's like giving birth. So anyway, so sports might be one. Another one that you have in spades, art. You have art, so amazing. I didn't even list them all. I could have done, these are just ones downtown. I thought, man, art could be a focus. By the way, there's no reason why you can't have two different brands, what we call split brands, where you say, we're also known for sports, but we also got the arts and culture. Now, one thing is Cedar City has 16 weeks of Shakespeare Festival. You know what? I don't know when your theaters and all of your performing arts are, but I'll bet you they're the other times of the year. And so I just thought arts could be one. I'm just trying to plant a couple of seeds. I'm not, and of course sports and golf go together. But when we walked around town, we saw art around the corner. Everywhere we walked, we saw cool, we saw, just all different kinds of visual arts. And then of course you also had the performing arts. And you already do these kinds of events, art festival every March, and you already could add culinary, visual, and performing arts. You'd be the only place in Utah to do it. Just throwing out ideas. What is it you want to be known for besides retirement living? And so, in closing, I'm all done. Make a list of these. And by the way, we are going to be writing over the next 90 days a suggestions, findings, and suggestions report. So we're going to get that to you. I am going to give to Greg and Roxy both, I am going to get them this physical presentation, which is done in Apple Keynote, but I'm also going to provide it in PowerPoint. I'm also going to provide them a PDF. One thing you need to know about assessments. This is meant to be a conversation starter, not all the answers. I don't know that sports is it. I don't know that art is it. Maybe you may say, you know what, we love being retirement. But I got to tell you one thing, is if you gear your brand younger, just so you know, the millennials, oldest ones are like 32, youngest ones are just 14, they outnumber the baby boomers. Then there's the Gen Xers, kind of the forgotten generation, 65 million of them. And they've been the most punished generation in U.S. history because they had to go through these recessions. They were the first generation to get hit with huge, incredible college debt. But there's something that you should know. Us boomers had our kids in our 20s. Millennials are having their kids in their late 30s and even their early 40s. So there's been this kind of a generation gap, but the millennials are just now starting to have infants. in 3 or 4 years, the biggest generation in U.S. history is going to have kids playing t-ball. And guess what? If those kids are coming to St. George, us grandparents are going to be there because multi-generational travel, boomers have a guilt complex. We weren't there for our kids, but by God, we're going to be there for our grandkids. Right? And you know what our kids know? Multi-generational travel, guess who's paying the bill? Right? Grandpa, grandma. It's huge. So if you do sports, you're going to win. If you do art, you're going to win. But you know what? With your marketing, here's what we found out in Asheville, North Carolina. The average age in Asheville was 64. And you know, people moved to Asheville, they never left. It was becoming an older retirement community. Within 10 years, the average age is now 34. And you know what they found out? They geared their marketing to millennials and the younger Gen Xers. And you know what they found out? They didn't lose the boomers because us boomers like hanging out with you guys whether you like it or not. True, you will not lose the boomers. So cater it young. And that is one thing that you're a little bit stuck in is a retirement destination when you could be the cool sport like the Zorb or whether it's art. I mean, if you gear it younger, you're going to win. Okay? So, and it doesn't mean you're going to lose us retirees and the snowbirds at all. But Sedona isn't known for retirees, and neither is Scottsdale. You are. And that's what you have to change. And so, in the end, find your focus. Develop a wayfinding system. Create a downtown master plan. Figure it out. You need a central gathering, walkable downtown. And up your marketing game. What you have here is absolutely phenomenal. And I've said it, I mean, next to Sedona, I can't even think of a more fantastic setting than you have in St. George, Utah. I mean, and you have some incredible places in Utah. I mean, Moab, I could keep going on. Springdale, right next to Zion. But look at this for a metropolitan area next to a major freeway. I mean, it's amazing what you have. And you've got it from Slick Rock to Red Rock to lava, to the hiking, to the water, you name it. And so, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So this is the first day of the rest of your life. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be known for? And there are some things to do that will get you there. All you have to do is make something happen. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for coming out this morning. Thank you.